Maybe you have a memory which is outstanding of all these 10 or 20 occurrences, a special story about Hungary or anything you remember and you tell all over the world about Hungarians.
Yeah, I've always loved coming here, so Hungarian people have always been supporting me back in the late 90s when, this sound wasn't that popular in Hungary at all. There was a small group, there were good parties. And I have to say all of the parties I've done here so far were absolute excellent. So I love coming here.
I always wondered the stories you tell with any of your albums. Where do these all come from? Where is the inspiration for all this from? You must be into some really spiritual things to be so spiritual for outside.
This is just because I go through life not only with my eyes but with heart and soul, and I appreciate life and meeting people, and so all my experiences I make in life, I try to put them into music. And I think if music is not emotional, then it's it won't last for very long. So there is music which is quite it worked in the club and stuff like that, but today nobody knows it anymore. So I'm trying to work more in an album conscience and try to put all my heart and soul into it.
Yeah, all your heart and soul and your voice. Did I read it well? Is it true that you're singing yourself on your records?
Yeah, I do sometimes, yeah.
And maybe also your wife, if I read it well.
Yeah, she did some vocals as well, but obviously I'm working with proper vocalists as well. So it's it's me, and sometimes my wife speaks a few vocals, but I'm also working with Teresa Baltimore, for example, who's a brilliant singer, and Jimmy, who sang on the last album and on the one before. So yeah, that's quite important.
And you had a classical music education before starting with house and electronic music?
Yeah, kind of, but I was very young then, so I didn't use it to full capacity, but it was 5 years, and I learned piano, and I learned everything about classical music as far as you can learn it in 5 years. So I have a little bit of a background there, which might be an advantage,
And how did you turn into house after these 5 years finally? You went to a club or?
No, well, yes, basically it was like that. I mean, we started out when I was about 16, 17. I was into synthesizer music, which was, back then really famous and stuff like that. Then we had a band in industrial style. We did music, EBM, so pretty hardcore stuff. And then end of 90s, of the 80s, and beginning of the 90s, we did some scores for theatre and stuff like multimedia shows, and then I think back then, it was around 93 or 94. I did my first chill out album, and then in
moniker GFC.
Yeah, Jean-F Cauchois, and then the first clubs in my hometown started, and there were very nice underground parties back then with the back then unknown Ricardo Villalobos. he did organize the parties. He was a percussionist in a band back then.
Good to know.
Yeah, but he brilliant parties we had, and that influenced me a lot. So I was always more on the soulful side of life. So obviously house was my genre then, and then I started doing that.
Yeah, you already told me that this type of music you also play was not so popular like 5, 6, 7, 8 years before, and now it is also in Hungary. Do you have the same impression in other parts of the world, like Germany?
Especially Germany, it was impossible. Yeah, I really had a hard time in the beginning.
And now?
It's getting better because we had this long time of minimal being really big, and of course before techno and trance and stuff, and all the minimalists come now back to using at least a few chords in their music. So they're coming back to what I did all the years, and so it matches a little bit better, and it makes it a bit easier for me to play in Germany as well. But most of the time I play in foreign countries, and even there you could see the development, and it's really great fun. Meanwhile, it's really good.
And which countries would you consider as most advanced in dance music and stuff?
All right, dance music. You mean house music? Or?
House music.
Yeah. It sounds cheesy, but of course Hungary I feel is really advanced, and I love coming here. I'm always looking forward to do that. And you know, there are other countries like Greece is really nice to play deep house stuff, and Bulgaria is quite good. Czech Republic is quite nice. You know, I'm discovering all these countries now, and it's really nice, and it's quite successful there.
So it's not really the Western countries you're saying?
Only, no, you would think, but it's not. It's really not.
Could you tell me about your studio, the Silent Chamber? It's nice. Name is also nice, but what does it cover? What tools you have? You use computers or more hardware?
I think about 6 years ago, I changed the whole setup. Before I had, you know, millions of hardware synthesizers, and you know, of course, it's a computer who just did basically sequencing, but not more. Nowadays, computers do everything, and I'm working a lot with the computer and use less outboard equipment. But of course, I have a few old analog synthesizers. I still have an analog mixing desk, which is quite important, and but equipment has reduced over the years, of course, because you know, software and stuff like that is developed to a state where you can really use it.
Do you still use a lot of vinyl or any?
No, I'm still buying vinyl, just, you know, selected items because I like to have it. But it's, you know, in my eyes, it's not useful anymore, because for me it's more practical. On top, if you travel, there are a lot of people say, oh, if you don't play vinyl and the sound is pee and bamboo, but I can't see that, and I get a lot of promotional stuff all on CD, or you get it on MP3 via the internet, so you can't all have them on vinyl. And I think I'm playing buffs from CD, and I think that's quite nice to do, and it's quite handy, and I can handle it the best way.
Yeah, what's the latest plans? Is there a new story to be told in the next year or this year?
We have just by the end of 2008, a month ago, we just released the Resense Part 2, which was a collection of remixes. First part was in 2007, I think. And that was quite nice. And so right now I'm working on the new D-Train. It's Volume 6, which will be out end of January. So that's basically how far I can see at the moment.
Well, thank you very much for the interview.